Welcome to the 2's review, game one of the 2021 season. Atlanta United 2 last night were in Louisville, Kentucky to face Lou City. It was a 2-0 loss. Paulo Del Piccolo with both of the goals for Louisville. First in the 69th minute, assisted by Oscar Jimenez, and then again in the 87th minute, assisted by George Davis IV. I'm Jason Longshore, joined by Jarrett Smith for our first 2's review of the season. We were both pulling double duty yesterday, Jarrett, as we were at Mercedes-Benz Stadium for the first team game. Lineup came out about a half hour before the first team lineup came out, and there was a buzz on our end getting ready for radio with Jackson Conway in the starting lineup, Tyler Wolff in the starting lineup, Josh Bauer in the starting lineup. 3 first-team players got the start for the 2's last night for Tony Annan.
It was really cool to see, especially with a guy like Wolff, because I feel like Wolff has been, he gets handed the contract last year. 2020 is kind of a lost year for a lot of people. I feel like a lot of people don't really understand what Tyler Wolff is about. So seeing him in a situation like this, I think it's going to be a really good chance for people to get an idea of what he is and what he can do and his skill set that he brings to the table. We know what Jackson Conway is. Most of anybody who keeps up with USL knows what Jackson Conway is at this point. And then, if you paid attention to the draft, Bauer was kind of an enigma that he dropped as far as he did because of what his skill set potentially can offer you. But it was very exciting. As far as seeing these guys who were on the first team deal get sent down. And we've seen that before. Really curious to see how it shakes out the rest of the year with the way that Gabriel Heinze wants to use his first team players and, more importantly, his academy players.
First 11 average age for Atlanta United 2 was 20.2 years. One of the younger lineups that you'll see in the USL Championship.
The last few years.
Yeah, one of the older ones for Atlanta United 2. One of the younger ones you'll see across the league. It's just the nature of what the 2's are. The stats don't look great when you just look at them on paper. 14 shots for Louisville, 3 for Atlanta, 60-40 possession in favor of Louisville, and that's always going to make it difficult for Atlanta United 2 when they don't control that possession number. Fouls were 17-14 in favor of Atlanta United 2. I like that they were fighting with a very good Lou City team that's won the Eastern Conference 3 out of the last 4 years and has been a perennial playoff team. I mean, this is a very good team with a lot of seasoned professionals. And you see those numbers, you look at those numbers, and you think, oh, wow, this is a tough performance. I didn't feel like it was watching it back and kind of going through it a bit in a little more detail. I thought, and even on the broadcast, Mike Watson, Devin Kerr, in the second half, before Louisville found the opener, they were talking about how Atlanta United 2 was playing them toe-to-toe, not giving away anything easy. It wasn't like they were holding on for dear life. The first goal comes off of a corner kick, and Atlanta United 2 was in the game. They just weren't getting a whole lot out of the game, if that makes sense.
It does. It's something I think we talked about last year, that we saw the team really I think we started seeing it during the end of Stephen Glass's first year, and then it took a jump with Tony Annan at the helm last year, in that it's a lot of young players, but it's these kids that aren't scared. If there was ever a moment, and not to say that they ever played scared, but if there was ever a moment where you thought, man, these guys are 16, 17, 18, 19 years old, and it looks like they're playing adults and they're like, a half step of hesitation. That's not there anymore. The result isn't what you wanted to see, but to me, there's zero fear in the way these kids are approaching this game. They don't really give a damn if the people on the other side are another U19 team or whether it's Cameron Lancaster on the other side. They don't seem to care anymore. You just want to turn this now into results. But the performances themselves and the lack of fear, I think it's awesome.
Before we jump into the position groups, and that's kind of how we'll do these 2's reviews, is we'll talk about individuals, but we'll talk about it more in the sense of how the back line looked, how the midfield looked, how the front three looked, because this was a 4-3-3, a little bit different shape with two holding midfielders behind one, but this was a 4-3-3, which is what you're going to see primarily out of Atlanta United clubs. Before we get into that, I think one important element that jumped out to me especially watching the second half back, after that goal from Del Piccolo to give Lou City the opener, there was a great 1-2 on the right side of the pitch. Philip Goodrum had come on as a sub, brought some electricity to the team. We had the chance to talk to Philip Goodrum on our season preview, and he's tricky creative in the final third. He doesn't look like a guy that's a traditional number 10, but incredible savvy from him where he gets the ball from Aiden McFadden, who played right back in this one, which is a new position for him. And he holds it just long enough to give McFadden the time to run, slips the pass through to him. McFadden gets into the 18 and 100% earned a penalty. Cameron Lancaster tracked back with him, forearm to the back, shoves him over. Watson Kerr on the call had that as a penalty. I thought it was a penalty. Easy decision for the referee. Didn't give it. That could have made it 1-1. That could have changed everything. Lou City went down as Atlanta was pushing for an equalizer, got a second goal. They get the 2-0 win. But if you get that penalty and you convert, and it's a big if on if you convert, but if you convert, this game has a very different feel to it on that one sequence.
It does. I think we were sitting there during the first team game, and Chris Ramondi, one of the tireless media team members for Atlanta United, asked us, any questions y'all want to send to Tony after the game. And John and I just kind of looked at each other like, yeah, penalty. Ask him. Tony said, yeah, that's a penalty. There was no doubt about that. Frankly, like, and without getting too soapboxy, it's an inexcusable missed call. Yeah. It's right in front of the official. It's right in front of him. It's a forearm in the back. Lancaster goes through him. It changes the complexion of the game. I think the question I had wanted to ask, and I think Tony said, that doesn't have any bearing on the second goal. But it is for me personally, it's a moment that I want to see how guys react to that. Right. Where you don't get that call and you go down 4 minutes later and give up the second goal, and not to say that that directly is why you gave up the second goal, but to see how guys respond to a referee missing a call to that degree that can sway a road game against a really strong team. They talked about on the call, this is a team in Louisville that loaded up on depth, expecting to play a lot of games this year, especially with U.S. Open Cup. They've had some injuries, but it's a very deep team. They've taken a team that's won the East 3 out of the last 4 years and added depth to it. This wasn't like playing another academy team out there. This is a very good team, and you stood toe-to-toe with them. You had something go against you that you almost got to share the points out of it. And difference between losing 1-0 and 2-0 doesn't mean a lot to me when you're pushing for that second goal. At that point, you're either going to get out there 1-1 or 0-2. It is what it is.
Tony Annan on that penalty decision, his quote that was issued by the club, Stonewall, absolute Stonewall penalty. If you watch the replay, the kid has no chance of playing the ball, and he shoves Aiden straight in the middle of the back, and that changes the game at 1-0. It 100% does. General thoughts from Tony Annan on the match. To be fair, I was pleased with the effort from the group for not having trained together at all. They did quite well, played some good football, and defended very well. The effort was amazing from the whole group. He talked a little bit about the new players and how they performed. Talked about how when you're bringing new guys in and you're not getting a chance to train separately, and that's going to be a nature of the way the 2's look at times this year, because this is a holistic approach in terms of having as many groups trained together as possible. It's going to take a little bit of time on set piece marking, and there was a mistake on the corner kick that led to the Del Piccolo goal. It's to be expected. The rhythm, the lack thereof, it's to be expected, but the ideas were strong. I think the philosophy was strong, and the effort was very, very strong. Let's go through those position groups a little bit, Jarrett. So we'll talk about the back line and goalkeeper Vicente Reyes. Reyes ended up with 4 saves. He had one punch where he had to come out. He made a couple saves from inside his 18. He's a guy who is 17, and I think it's easy to forget that. I think he's grown a little bit in the offseason as well. He looked a little more comfortable than he did last year in his limited action. One thing that in this system you're going to have to see more of from him is a little more composure on the ball and a little more willingness to maybe play short at times. He was 15 of 33 passing, but 21 of his 33 passes were long. And he opted for the safer play, which, again, 17-year-old in this match with good pressure from Louisville, totally to be expected, but that's an area where you want to see his composure develop.
I think it's a level of bravery that comes with that, and that's it's when you're 17 years old, you got guys bearing down on you, and you're trying to put a ball really nicely into sometimes a really tight spot in a pressure-filled situation. It's gonna be tough. But you're gonna have to show some bravery and make peace with the fact that you're gonna make mistakes, because even the guys who do it at the top level around the world make mistakes. So you just got to have a short memory about it. I think as he gets more comfortable, as he gets more minutes, I would expect him to. I expect him to be just fine. As far as growth goes, good with everything we saw. Not much you could do about the goals.
Right.
The header on the corner. I forget who it is. It's number 8. I can't. My mind's blank.
Chris Allen
gets beat.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's Chris Allen gets beat. Gets beat on the corner kick, and not much you can do with that one. And then the cross for the second goal. It's a good cross. You would like to see somebody there, but there's nothing. There's none of neither one of these goals are ones where you look at him and go, "Oh man, could you?" No, he couldn't have. Don't worry about that part. He'll work on distribution. He'll work on getting better, and just sometimes you're going to have to take risks. But I thought overall, no problems.
Yeah, he made an incredible save in the 15th minute off of a deflection. It came off of Bauer, and Reyes got down low with his right hand. That was his highlight of the night. World-class save by Vicente Reyes in that one for me. The back line, left to right, it was Caleb Wiley, it was Bradley Camden-Theo, it was Josh Bauer, it was Aiden McFadden. A couple things we didn't expect. One, McFadden playing right back, Camden-Theo playing as a center back. Those were different. Josh Bauer was playing in his normal center back role. Caleb Wiley, who we saw a good bit last year, very young at 16 years old, he played on the left side. Wiley had some challenges, but I thought Wiley also had some really good plays and especially some good sequences late. He had a great recovery in the 74th minute where he tracks back, he wins the ball back, he doesn't just lose his head and blast it out of there, he picks out a pass down the left wing. To see that kind of a play late from him was really impressive. Numbers from the back line, Bauer had 10 clearances to lead the team. He had 4 interceptions, didn't have to win a tackle. Bradley Camden-Theo, 5 clearances, 4 interceptions, 2 tackles. McFadden with a couple of clearances, 1 a tackle. Wiley, 2 clearances, 3 interceptions, 1 blocked shot. What'd you think of the back line as a whole?
Not bad. Like I said, I think you can be picky and say, hey, let's go to the tape and look at the second goal and see what we can do better. Mm-hmm. But overall, like I said, you're starting a lot of young guys. Like Power's one of your more veteran players on that back line,
right.
And the dude just came out of college and into a tough situation. I mean, he's going to be playing center back for an organization that has a lot of high upside center back depth, as we saw with the first team last night. So, I mean, Bauer is going to have to really put his nose to the grindstone to do things. Caleb Wiley, I don't know what his workout program is, but he needs to market it because boy got big, which isn't the be all end all of everything. Like size isn't everything, but if he's going to want to play at the next level, that's what needed to happen. He's, to get bigger, to get stronger, to be able to handle grown men, because the kid can't even go buy cigarettes or vote yet. And he's out there just going for it. I'm very excited about what Caleb Wiley can be. And it's because of moments like you mentioned where Wiley recovers the ball and doesn't blast it, into row Z, where he turns around, picks out the pass, and the game gets to the point where it slows down for him. And I want to see more of that. Overall, yeah, I mean, I think when you've got a team this young, you're going to keep their energy up and say, hey guys, when we look at the film on this, we're going to look at a couple things. It's not the end of the world. We're just going to look at this and say, what can we do better next time?
Wiley created a chance going forward as well. He won 3 of his 7 duels. He lost possession 24 times, which was the most on the team. But I think he battled well, and it didn't feel like he was getting, down as the game went on. I thought he had his ups and downs, but that's to be expected. You have to play through those. Camden Feo won 3 of his 4 duels in the air. That was something I was a little curious about how that would look playing him centrally. It worked pretty well. Aiden McFadden was very good going forward, 22 out of 27 passing. Crosses 0 for 3. That was an area where you struggled on your crosses as a whole in this one. But McFadden looked good attacking from the right back position. I think he'll get more comfortable with the defensive side of it as you go. And you see this happen a lot with players who are good attackers in the college game, maybe wouldn't get that opportunity to beat somebody out at the professional level. So when they become converted outside backs or even, converted, center backs or holding midfielders, you kind of see them move around a little bit. They can add an element that you don't ordinarily see from those positions. You think of what New England has done with DeJuan Jones, with Tajon Buchanan, with Brandon Bye. You think of John Gallagher's progression where he turned into an outside back and then went back into a forward role as he was able to get on the field a decent bit by playing outside back. So McFadden, that conversion will be a fun one to watch. Let's get into the midfield because you had 3 starters in the midfield trio in Chris Allen, Brendan Lamb, and Tyler Wolff. Brendan Lamb was the highest rated player on SofaScore with a 6.9. Lamb was 34 of 47 passing. He was heavily involved, I thought, on both sides of the ball. He had 3 interceptions. He had a couple tackles. He was the youngest one of this midfield. Lamb played in the training exercise with Charleston and didn't look out of place there. He's 17 years old. We only saw him a little bit last season. Brendan Lamb really impressed me in this one.
Yeah, and I think this is something that we're going to see more and more of. And I think we've discussed this, that as you have built this academy up, it's not like the Patrick Okonkwo's and the George Bellows and Andrew Carltons of the world where they've come through the academy and boom, you're in a professional setting now. Now you got guys who have been coming through for the last 5 years. They know the structure. They kind of understand the culture of it all and understand what's expected of them. And they've watched guys go through it. I think they're coming in ready because they know now if they get this opportunity, they have to grab it and they have to do the right things to even earn that opportunity in the first place. I think they've done a really good job with that, with allowing some of these guys, even guys who didn't see the field last night, like a Will Riley, or the starting lineup, like a Will Riley out there, who we've seen grow, where you've got guys coming through the academy and they're not going to look out of place because they're not going to earn that opportunity if they're going to look out of place.
100%. Chris Allen impressed me as well. Coming from D2, University of Charleston, West Virginia, he spent some time in Sunderland's academy on his way up before coming to the States for college. He was rated very highly by SofaScore as well. He was 28 of 28 on his passing, 2 out of 2 on longer passes, 4 interceptions, couple tackles. Had a really good presence in that midfield. He did make the mistake on the corner. He lost his mark. Del Piccolo got inside of him. That gives Lou City the opening goal. That's going to definitely be something you have to work on, have to improve upon. But in the run of play, I thought Chris Allen was very good.
I agree. In run of play, he was fine. In that corner situation, that to me was a young player who kind of turned off for even a quarter second, and then that's a club captain. That's a veteran player who is going to just not necessarily, for me, at least the way I see it, not necessarily just try and trick a guy, but he's going to keep throwing his best shot at you over and over and over and waiting for you to turn off for half a second, and that's all he needs. And he kept throwing his best shot and doing his thing, and you went to sleep for half a second. You'll watch that film, and I think you watch that and go, okay, well, know what not to do next time. Because there's nothing you can do about it now. That's not to excuse it and to say, oh, well, shucks, that happened. No, it's not that. It's a matter of you've now seen it on tape and you've seen the dramatic consequences of when you switch off or when you're not marking correctly on those set pieces. Take it to heart. Run with it. But keep doing what you did in the game, because I agree. I thought he was good in the flow of the game itself. The whole midfield, I was impressed, especially in the first half, with the way they just battled. and just pulled out a rusted knife if they needed to. They're ready to go fight.
Allen went 81 minutes, was replaced by Efrain Morales late, which was interesting to see Morales, the homegrown center back, play in the midfield, which is where he had kind of started his career with Atlanta United's academy. A very large holding midfielder when Efrain Morales is in that spot. But Allen,
that's like a damn, what's his name? Belgian midfielder.
Fellaini.
Yeah, it's like Mario Fellaini out there.
Yeah, a little bit.
6'5", 6'8" with the hair.
Yeah, we don't want Efrain Morales to grow that kind of hair out. Let's not root for that part. But yeah, it's something that can add a little more diversity to his game as well when he gets those minutes in that spot. The other thing about Allen, it was funny you mentioned, you called him the young guy. He was older than the average age. He's 22. He's one of the old guys in this team, but it was his first professional game. So you've got some situations like that where Jackson Conway's got far more professional experience than somebody 3, 4, maybe even 5 years older than him, depending on the situation. Welcome to Atlanta United 2. Welcome to the USL Championship as a whole. Tyler Wolff was the other member of the midfield trio. He played 70 minutes. Earned 3 free kicks, which is good. He only had 37 touches, 15 and 19 passing. Was okay. I think they were, I thought, a little harsh on him in their assessment of his performance on the call. I thought he was all right, but you are looking for Tyler at this point, being a first-team player and coming in after a good preseason. You're looking for more. And I think maybe the disappointment in some ways is a credit to what you've seen in his development up to this point. He worked hard. He had a couple interceptions, had a couple tackles, but he didn't impact the game going forward as much as you'd like to see.
And how much of that, do you think you might attribute to some guys hit a point developmentally where they have to push through, where it's a little harder to push through? And that he might be kind of at a point like that. And that's not to say he can't get better. It's not to criticize his play. It's just sometimes guys, have to push through, and they have to find the point at which they're going to push through, and they've got to just kind of keep driving their head against the wall until they can break through. And you might have performances like that because you've seen what it can become, and it isn't quite there yet, but just got to keep bashing your head against a wall, metaphorically speaking, until you can show it, because you've also got to keep putting on performances, and you can't wait forever because you have guys on that bench and in that academy who are going to be chomping at the bit in this midfield. Hell, even guys with the first team, that midfield is busy. Guys with the first team who might say, hey, I'll take those minutes.
Right. That's the pressure that you're facing if you're a Tyler Wolff. You're on a first team deal. There are expectations, and you do have to build chemistry. And that's one of the harder things as he drops into that midfield, with Lamb, who's trained with the first team, with Allen, not sure how much he's trained with the first team, but he's been around. Do you have chemistry with that group? Do you have chemistry with Darwin Mateos, Coleman Gannon, Jackson Conway, your front three? It wasn't bad from Wolff. It's just I think we're holding him to a little bit higher standard now, which is good. He's just got to continue to elevate his game to that point. Gannon is a player we saw a good bit of last year. He played the full 90, moved around a little bit. He was out wide, then he moved into that midfield trio after Wolff was substituted. 17 to 26 on passes. He had a really nice cross early in the game that didn't find anybody. He had a good shot attempt on a through ball from Darwin Mateos, who we'll get to in just a second. Gannon had some good. He had some bad. He's another one that I think has grown a little bit. I don't know what they're doing with the academy where we're seeing Vicente Reyes. I think Morales has grown another inch or two in height. Caleb Wiley continues to grow. Like, these guys just keep getting bigger and bigger. But Gannon...
It's the Scott Cochran Alabama weight program.
I guess. And it's going to help a guy like Gannon, who was very undersized last year. I think as he gets a little more comfortable, we'll see some of that explosiveness and that swagger from him. Didn't really see too much of it in game one.
He's one for me, I think, that for me this year, I'm going to put him, not to say positionally they're the same, but I'm putting him in a similar category that I had a guy like a Will Riley last year.
Yeah.
I've seen you show flashes of some really fun stuff. Also, your embracing of the dark arts is one of my favorite things I've ever seen from a kid. He has you do not have to teach Coleman Gannon how to have an edge about himself. He's got that already. But he's one I'm going to be watching this year closely in the same way that Riley was last year. And that you've shown me some stuff. I want to see what you do over this whole season where there's going to be more pressure on you. Guys are going to key in on you a bit. You're going to have challenges. And things are going to be magnified a bit. How do you handle it?
Because of the struggles to build up play, I don't think we really got to see a lot of Jackson Conway. He fought hard. He didn't have a lot of touches in his 90 minutes, only 24. Connected passes well. He hit a couple of switches that were good that converted. He earned 3 free kicks, but only 24 touches for your number 9. There's only so much we can really rate on Jackson Conway's game. The attacker that I thought was really interesting was Darwin Mateos, the young Venezuelan who has a good bit of experience in Venezuela's first division. I thought he was getting very frustrated with the amount of physicality that was allowed in the game from an early stage in the game. But he also had the best chance that he created, which was the through ball where Wiley won possession in the first half. Mateus with a really nifty ball through to Gannon to give him an opportunity 1v1 with the goalkeeper. There were some really good things about Darwin Mateus. I liked how quick he was on the ball. 78 minutes for him, only 8 of 12 passing. He did create that one chance. I want to see more. I liked the little bit we saw from him, but I want to see him run at players more. He was 1 for 1 on his dribbling attempt. Want to see that more. Want to see him get into the final third more and have some chances to look for goals.
Yeah, that's about where I am with it as well. As I wasn't sure what to expect from him in the first place, but I did want to see more of him, and it's going to be an interesting situation with this team because, like we said, you got a lot of guys fighting for minutes. You don't have a great showing, it might be a game or two before we see you again, and just because of the nature of the organization, the nature of the team. Some guys you might see them. Next time out, get 80 minutes of game time and see what they've got. So I'm in the same boat that I do want to see more of it. And I want to see that actually running at guys. I want to see that from a couple of players on first team and with Atlanta United too. I want to see a little bit more of it run at players, put defenders under pressure and try and bend things a bit. Because you're not going to just snap an iron rod, but y'all can bend it. And don't be afraid to try that in the right situation.
What we've seen from the first team with Marcelino Moreno, with Jurgen Damm, with Jake Mulroney running at outside backs, I want to see that from Darwin Mateos. I want to see that from Coleman Gannon. I want to see that from Philip Goodrum when he's in one of those positions. Mackie Jope, when he gets the opportunity, he was on the bench, wasn't called upon here in this one. You want to see those 1v1 opportunities taken because that's how you're going to get to the first team is where you're having the personality on the field to go for those 1v1s, and then you start to win them consistently, you're going to move up. You're going to move up the ladder in this program. We've talked about Goodrum. We've talked about Morales, who came on. Not a lot of minutes for either one. Goodrum created the opportunity that should have been a penalty. Morales played in the holding midfield, which was new. Alexander Garuba came on in the 78th minute for Mateos. He had an opportunity driving at goal where maybe he could have been a little more selfish. He laid it off, which was the good decision, but maybe he needs to try to make a claim for himself a little bit. This is a guy who scored a boatload of goals for Center College in the Division III level of the NCAA. Saw quite a few of those over at Oglethorpe in Brookhaven, and you just see guys like that who score a lot of goals at whatever level they're at. And not just run-of-the-mill goals, but special goals. And you want to see how it converts when you move up levels. He had some time in NISA last year with the Oakland Roots. Garuba's one of those that he's a local guy. He was available. He gets the call. I think he fits into the way that Atlanta United 2 and Atlanta United want to play. He's got to take advantage of the opportunity. I thought he looked pretty good in his 12-plus minutes.
Yeah, I did too, and I can't speak to Oglethorpe as I have not been. I have not been watching Oglethorpe as closely as you and Jess have, but I don't know that anyone has watched Oglethorpe as closely as you and Jess have. It's harder to pick them up on like a stream other than I could get a set of rabbit ears and, and some tinfoil to do it. But I mean, I think for me, some of this also comes back to just who you were playing. You got handed a really tough assignment in week one. You get handed a pro team that built itself for depth, expecting a very competitive USL Eastern Conference and expecting to compete in U.S. Open Cup, which, has been suspended for the time being, and we'll have to see how that develops and what U.S. Soccer wants to do. You got handed one of the toughest assignments you could get handed. And I think overall, there wasn't anyone on the field where I thought, you don't need to be here. And I think that's one of my favorite things about it is even if guys made mistakes, I didn't look at anybody and think, I don't know if this is, I don't know if you're ready for this. It seemed like everybody was ready for it. And even more importantly to me, it seemed like they believed they were ready for it and they didn't really give a damn that it was Louisville on the other side. Now you just got to tighten up some things in terms of your finishing, in terms of creating, in terms of having possession. This is just stuff to work on. And guys, especially, I think it's fair to look at the guys coming off the bench to say, hey, you're only going to get 30 minutes here, 25 minutes. So what can you show me in that limited amount of time? How can you balance this desire to give me something without being reckless?
That's the balancing act. You've got to make a name for yourself, show your personality while fitting into the overall collective. And that's what takes good players up levels in the system. And that's in any country. That's not even just here. That's just how it goes. You've got to show what you can do, but it can't be reckless. It can't be too individualistic. You've got to fit into the overall collective philosophy. And that's what Atlanta United 2 is building with the tweaks that we've seen the first team do. That's what you're seeing right now with Atlanta United 2. The next two matches will still be on the road before they come home on May 19th, both at OKC Energy, separated by a week. You have a week off in between. But OKC Energy, in their first match, they faced their cross-state rivals FC Tulsa at home, and they lost to Tulsa 3-1 last night. Couple players for OKC that you will know of. CJ Cochran, former Atlanta Silverbacks goalkeeper, one of the better goalkeepers in the USL Championship, in my opinion. CJ is with OKC Energy. Connor Donovan, their captain, he was their best player in the loss to FC Tulsa. He had the goal. Center back with a good bit of experience at this level. Another player who stood out, he assisted on the goal, was Viljan Bijev on the left wing. So OKC Energy, next two games, May 1st and May 16th out in Oklahoma. There'll be games that at least one of them conflicts with the first team, so you'll get your 2's review kind of like this one, the next day as we get a chance to digest it and look at it in a little more detail instead of splitting our vision from watching two games at the same time. So be on the lookout on the SDH podcast feed for more on Atlanta United 2. We'll have more interviews and such as we go as well. And it's all leading up to the home opener on May 19th. Thanks for listening to 2's Review edition number 1 for 2021. We'll be back next weekend.